What's up, guys? It's your boy MMA Striker back with another video today, and today we are back with another episode of the Monday MMA News Series. And last week I didn't upload a episode, or I didn't upload any videos, and I took a little short break from making YouTube videos. But now I'm back, and since I didn't upload last week, I'm gonna combine last week's news and this week's news all in one video. And I don't know if the video is going to be like all in one, or if I want to make it like a two-part video, but we'll see. But we have a lot to talk about, and we're going to start by recapping last week's card with Holly Holm and Irene Aldana. And Holly Holm looked very good in that fight. I think this is the best she's looked since fighting Ronda Rousey, and she dominated Aldana from start to finish. Her wrestling has gotten so much better than when it was when she first came to the UFC. And now Holly Holm is an all-around great fighter, wrestling, takedowns, striking, and she looked very good. Aldana got outclassed. She looked confused. She didn't look like she didn't know what to do. And I don't know what her game plan was, but I don't think it was a very smart game plan. But other than that, Holly Holm looked very good. And what's next for her? I think her versus Germaine de Randamie for a #1 contender fight is the fight to make. And speaking of Germaine de Randamie, she submitted Juliana Pena in the third round, which was a very shocking thing. I did not expect it to happen, because Juliana Pena is a very good BJJ artist, and Germaine de Randamie's weakness has always been her takedown defense and her grappling. So to see her pull off a submission on somebody like Juliana Pena is very impressive. And I said this on Twitter last week. I said, could you imagine if Germaine de Randamie had Jose Aldo level takedown defense? I think she would be the champion. I think she would have beaten Nunez if she had that level of takedown defense. But she doesn't, so that's not going to happen. But I do think she's the best striker in women's MMA right now. I know there's Valentina Shevchenko, Joanna. I know there's a lot of great female strikers, but I think GDR is the best one, in my opinion. But like I said, what's next for her? Holly Holm. Winner fights Nunez again, because the 135 division, I mean, GDR and Holly Holm are the only two. They keep winning fights. They're gonna have to fight for a title eventually, because they're beating all the people below them. So have them rematch. The first fight was pretty controversial, all the illegal hits and stuff. I thought Holly Holm should have won that fight, but she didn't. So they need to run that back. The winner is to fight for the belt. And moving on to this past weekend's card, Marlon Moraes versus Corey Sandhagen. And in my opinion, this is the best card of the year, including pay-per-views. I mean, you had Corey Sandhagen spinning back kick knockout Marlon Moraes. You had Edson Barboza look very good. You had the viral KO of Joaquin Buckley. You had the jab KO of Tom Breeze. There was a lot of great fights on this card. A lot of great prospects showed up. And let's start with the main event, Marlon Moraes versus Corey Sandhagen. So, round one was pretty close. It was a back and forth. It was very hard to score watching live, but I gave it to Sandhagen by an edge. But in that second round, Marlon Moraes, I think he said he broke his orbital bone, but Marlon Moraes, he was starting to throw a lot of looping shots and overhands and spinning back fists. He wasn't really setting things up, and Corey was just starting to pick at him, and he threw that spinning back kick, Taekwondo style, and dropped him. Made Marlon Moraes do a Frankie Edgar style flip. You remember when Frankie Edgar got dropped by Gray Maynard? And he kind of did a little flip. Yeah, Marlon Moraes did the same thing. And Corey Sandhagen finished the fight, and it was a very impressive performance. I didn't think my prediction for this fight was Sandhagen by decision. I thought if the fight was going to end in round 2 or 1, it would be probably Moraes. But Sandhagen closed the show early, and very impressive performance by him. His best win and performance by far in the UFC. And what's next for him? I think TJ Dillashaw, when TJ Dillashaw gets back from his suspension, or maybe Frankie Edgar, but I think the TJ fight makes more sense. Have him fight TJ, and the winner gets a title shot, the winner of Aljo and Petr Yan. And what's next for Marlon Moraes? I think him versus Pedro Munoz would be a great fight, both coming off a loss. Pedro Munoz coming off that loss to Frankie Edgar, and Marlon coming off the loss to Sandhagen. So I think that's the perfect matchup. And let's move on and talk about the co-main event for a little bit. Edson Barboza dominated Makwan Amirkhani 30-26. Now, one judge had it 29-28. I don't know how you give Amirkhani a round, but that was pretty dumb. But I had it 30-26 Barboza, and Barboza looked really good. He was fast. His grappling actually did not look that bad in this fight. He stuffed a few takedowns, almost had a choke. I think it was the end of round 2. Yeah, it was in round 2 or 3. But he almost had a choke in, but Amirkhani got out of it. And in my opinion, this is the best Barboza has looked since his fight with Gilbert Melendez. Barboza is at 145 is a dangerous contender. I really think he could do damage in that division. I think he could be a top 5, top 7 guy in that division. But we'll see what the future holds for him and who he should fight next. It's kind of tricky because the top of 145 is kind of like jam-packed. So let's look at the rankings. Let's see who he should fight next. Okay, so we're going to pull up the rankings, featherweight. So Barboza's ranked 14 right now, so Barboza versus Shane Burgos will be a fun fight. Yeah, that's the fight to make. Barboza versus Shane Burgos. That's a perfect fight to make, in my opinion. And let's move on to the viral KO of Jaquan Buckley. He got his kick caught and then turned around, did a spinning kick to the face, clean KO. Top 3 best knockouts in UFC history, in my opinion. A lot of people put it at number 1, but I can't put it above Yair Korean Zombie for the fact that Yair was losing the fight. It was a 5-round fight. He did it with 1 second left, and nobody has done that same exact KO that Yair did. There have been elbow KOs, but not like that. Not an upwards elbow ducking like that. That has never been done, and you probably won't ever see a knockout exactly like that again. Now, Buckley's knockout was kind of the technique. It was kind of similar to the 2-touch kick that Mark Casey did it back in the day, but the only difference was that he caught the kick, so it wasn't really a 2-touch kick because the first kick was already caught. So he turned around, spin, and did a jumping spinning kick. So it wasn't quite a 2-touch kick, but it was very similar to it. So that was very impressive. He's gonna get a lot of fame. He's gonna become very famous from that. Similar to how Anthony Pettis did it from the Showtime kick. So I'm glad to see. I think he got a $200,000 bonus, so that's very good to see. And great performance by him. So moving on to last week, UFC 255 and 256 lost their main event. Well, they lost one half of the main event. UFC 255, Cody Garbrandt pulled out due to, I think, a torn bicep. He pulled out, so the UFC made Deiveson Figueiredo versus Alex Perez, which I disagree with. The fight is going to be a fun fight, but I think Brandon Moreno should have got the shot. He was already on the card against Perez, and in my opinion, Moreno was the number 1 contender in that division, so I don't know why they didn't give it to him. But it's whatever. Alex Perez versus Deiveson Figueiredo is going to be a fun fight anyways. And also, UFC 256, which was supposed to be Usman versus Burns, got scratched. Because Usman, I think, needed more time. He's dealing with injuries, which you can't really get mad at him for. He was a pretty active champion. He defended his belt twice in 7 months. So I don't know why people say he's an active champion, but that fight's not happening in December, so they need a main event for that. The rumor is Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal. And also the big news with Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier accepting to fight each other. And now the UFC wanted to do that fight, Conor versus Dustin, on January 23rd for the January pay-per-view, UFC 257. But Conor doesn't want to wait to 2021. He wants to fight in 2020. So I hope they get it done in 2020. I really hope they get it on the November card, because I think that card needs help more since it's sooner. But they're probably not going to do it because that card already has 2 title fights on it, so it's going to most likely be done on the December card, which I really hope they do that. In my early prediction for the fight, Conor versus Dustin, I have Conor McGregor by round 3 TKO. I think Conor is just better overall striker, and when Dustin Poirier throws that switch overhand right that he threw against Khabib and he did it against Max Holloway, that's not going to really work on Conor McGregor, because when Dustin throws that, he overextends his whole entire body and shoulder into that punch, and Conor can easily slip that and counter it with the left hand. So I think Conor McGregor is going to pretty much dominate this fight. Not saying Dustin Poirier can't win, but I just think Conor has his number, in my opinion. So with that, let's move on to previewing this upcoming weekend. Brian Ortega versus Korean Zombie. Now, this is an amazing fight. I've been looking forward for this fight for a long time. And Ortega is back off a 2-year layoff. Korean Zombie's back. These two don't really like each other, but my early prediction, I have Korean Zombie by TKO round 2. I think, especially if Ortega has not worked on his striking defense, I really hope he has, since being off from a long time. If his striking defense is still the same as the Max Holloway fight, I just think he's going to get picked apart. I think Korean Zombie's jab is going to be a lot to deal with, and I think The leg kick, even if Korean Zombie try to mix in some leg kicks, that can throw off Ortega. So right now, I'm gonna do a full breakdown on the fight probably later on this week. But right now, my prediction is Korean Zombie by round 2 TKO. I'm talking real fast today. I'm kind of excited to do this video, but and also on that same day, we have Loma versus Lopez in boxing, which is going to be on ESPN right after Ortega and Korean Zombie. And I want to do a prediction video for both fights, so I'm not going to get too in depth with this fight, but this is going to be a very good fight. My early prediction is Loma by decision, but in my opinion, this is the biggest fight in boxing this year, besides Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder rematch that happened early on this year. But also, what happened last week, moving on to the next topic, was Jon Jones and Israel Adesanya back and forth on Twitter. Now, I haven't really been paying attention too much to the actual messages, because I don't really care about the beef. I just want to see these two guys fight. I think Izzy needs to defend his belt one more time to get the 3 title defenses. Then after that, I think it's time to make that fight. You gotta make that fight. That fight right now is gonna trend to be the biggest fight. I think if they fight next year, 2021, I think it's gonna do at least 900K buys or higher, or even 1 million. 2 stars of the game. Jon Jones has been a star for a long time. Israel Adesanya just became a huge star after the Paulo Costa fight. They don't like each other. Excuse me. They don't like each other. They're both very good fighters, both dominant. You have to make that fight. That's the fight to make. That's gonna sell a lot of pay-per-views. And like I said time and time again, I do think Adesanya beats Jon Jones right now. I did a breakdown on that fight. I might do another one later on, like a few weeks from now, if you guys want to see that. But I will do another one. But right now, I have Israel Adesanya winning that fight. And now before we end the episode, we do have one question from somebody on Twitter earlier today. His name is at WhatUpSports. Shout out to him for the question. And he says, if Khabib beats Gaethje, who do you think he faces for his 30-0 fight? I think there's 3 options for a 30-0 fight. There's GSP, Tony Ferguson, and Conor McGregor. Now, if GSP doesn't come back, then it comes down to Conor McGregor and Tony Ferguson. Now, say Conor fights Dustin, and say Dustin beats Conor. I don't think Khabib's gonna fight Dustin again, because he just beat him last year, and Dustin isn't really he's a big name to the hardcore fans, to the people who watch the sport a lot, but outside of MMA, he's not really a big name, so that's not gonna really do much for his legacy. The legacy fights for Khabib, in my opinion, is GSP and Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson, I still think is the 2nd greatest lightweight of all time. You can debate me on that. I'm gonna do a video of the top 3 greatest fighters of each division. It's gonna come out in probably tomorrow, and I do think Tony Ferguson is still the 2nd greatest lightweight of all time, and GSP is the GOAT in my opinion. So, and I know a lot of people say, well, GSP's 40, he's out of his prime. He's out of his prime. Is he going to be prime version? Probably not, no. But even though he's still 40, does not mean he's going to be a horrible fighter. He can still win that fight. There's been fighters like DC, Dan Henderson, Yoel Romero, Randy Couture, who beat top level fighters at the age of 40. So that doesn't really do much for me. And I think if GSP came back to fight Khabib, I mean, GSP has been training this whole time ever since the Bisping fight, and this layoff is much shorter than the Bisping layoff. Well, not much shorter, but it's a 1-year difference. And stylistically, they're both even. They're very even fighters. GSP has a striking advantage over Khabib, and the grappling. I think the grappling is going to cancel each other out, similar to how Usman and Covington did. So that's a very, very close fight. If Khabib beats GSP, he moves up to the top three greatest fighters of all time. And if GSP beats Khabib, he's the undisputed GOAT. There's no debate in my opinion. So that's what I think about it. I think either Tony Ferguson or GSP are the fights for him to take for his 30th fight. But that's going to wrap up today's video, guys. Make sure to comment down below your thoughts on everything. And make sure to like this video and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good day.